Welcome to the Sober Addict Podcast. I'm your host, Zachary Dolce. This podcast is about the fight nobody sees, the thoughts you don't post, the battles that don't look dramatic but feel heavy. If you're sober, trying to get sober, or just tired of fighting your own mind, you're in the right place. Take a breath. You don't have to be strong here. One of the strangest parts of recovery isn't the cravings. And it's not the hard days where everything feels heavy and overwhelming. It's the good moments. It's the moments where nothing is wrong, where you're sober, present, and clear. Where life feels stable for a second, and instead of relief, you feel restless. Instead of peace, you feel tense. Instead of gratitude, you feel like you're waiting for something to go wrong. No one prepares you for that part. In addiction, intensity becomes familiar. Chaos becomes predictable. Your nervous system gets used to swings, the highs, the crashes, and the constant movement. And when all that stops, calm doesn't automatically register as safe. It registers as unfamiliar. This episode is going to be about that discomfort, about why peace can feel suspicious in recovery, about why good moments can feel hard to trust, and about learning how to let something good exist and end without numbing it, chasing it, or destroying it. Because staying sober isn't just about avoiding the bad moments. It's about learning how to stay present in the good ones too. Addiction doesn't change what you use or how often you use it. It changes the way your body and brain understand safety, how you understand comfort and time. It rewires what feels normal, what feels predictable, and what feels survivable. And those changes don't disappear just because you stop using. For a long time, your nervous system lived in extremes. High intensity followed by the collapse. Relief followed by regret. Escape followed by consequence. Even on days where things felt okay, there was always an undercurrent of movement, urgency, or anticipation, because nothing ever stayed still for long. The good moments didn't feel like places you could rest. They felt like temporary windows. In addiction, calm wasn't neutral. It was suspicious. It meant something was coming. It meant the high would end. It meant the crash was somewhere ahead, even if you couldn't see it yet. So your body learned not to settle, not to exhale fully, right? And not to trust stillness as something safe. That conditioning runs deep. So when you enter recovery and the chaos starts to fade, when the crisis slows down, and the days become quieter, your nervous system doesn't immediately recognize that as peace. It recognizes it as unfamiliar territory, and unfamiliar doesn't feel good. It feels risky. This is why so many people in recovery describe feeling restless during calm moments, anxious during stability, or emotionally flat when things are finally going well. It's not because recovery isn't working, it's because your system hasn't recalibrated yet. Your body spent years preparing for impact. Now it's being asked to trust absence. And that's a much harder skill than it sounds. You might notice this show up when you're sitting on the couch with nothing demanding your attention, when you're laughing during a conversation and suddenly feel guarded, Or when a day passes without chaos and instead of relief, you feel uneasy, like you're almost forgetting something important. That unease isn't a craving. It isn't a relapse urge, it's a learned response. Your brain is waiting for the pattern it knows. Addiction trained you to believe that good feelings come with consequences, that joy has shelf life, and that if something feels too calm, it probably won't last. So instead of letting yourself be present, your mind stays half a step ahead, scanning for what comes next. You don't fully land in the moment, you hover above it. And the hovering is a survival skill that once made sense. Staying emotionally mobile kept you from being blindsided by the crash. Staying guarded protected you always from disappointment. Staying alert kept you functioning. But in recovery, those same instincts can turn against you. They make peace feel uncomfortable. They make calm feel empty. They make stability feel fragile. And if you don't understand what's happening, it's easy to mistake that discomfort for boredom or something being wrong with your recovery, when in reality, it's your nervous system learning a new language. A language where nothing explodes, where nothing needs to be escaped, where moments are allowed to exist without intensity. That's not weakness. That's rewiring. And rewiring doesn't feel good at first. It feels awkward and slow. It feels like something is missing. But what's missing isn't excitement or chaos. What's missing is the constant stimulation your system was trained to rely on. Good moments in recovery don't come with fireworks. They come quietly, and quiet can feel threatening when you've lived in noise for so long. This is where I believe many people in recovery start to disengage without realizing it. Not by using, but by checking out emotionally, by distracting themselves, by staying busy, or by minimizing moments that actually matter. Because staying present in a good moment requires trust. Trust that it's okay to be here. Trust that nothing bad has to follow. Or trust that you don't need an exit strategy. And trust is not something addiction ever asked you to build. It asked you to survive. So if you've ever felt uneasy during peace, restless during calm, or emotionally distant during moments that should feel good, this isn't a sign you're broken or failing. It's a sign that your system is still learning that it doesn't have to brace anymore. And learning that takes time. One of the hardest things to accept in recovery is that just because your life is calmer doesn't mean your body is calm yet. Recovery can create stability faster than your nervous system knows what to do with it. And that gap is where a lot of confusion lives. You see, on paper, things might be better. You're showing up, you're functioning. You're present in ways you weren't before. But internally, there's still a sense of readiness. Like you're waiting for instructions, waiting for impact, or waiting for the moment where you have to react instead of just existing. This is where recovery gets quiet and strange. You might notice that when a good moment shows up, a conversation or a laugh, your mind doesn't fully settle into it. Instead, it starts drifting or planning, anticipating, wondering how long this feeling is going to last. That isn't pessimism. It's pattern recognition. Your brain learned that good feelings were temporary and often dangerous because in an addiction, the better it felt, the worse the crash usually was, right? So even now, when there's no crash coming, your system stays halfway out of the moment, just in case. You don't fully land in that moment. You keep one foot ready to move at all time. And this is why people in recovery often say they feel bored, disconnected, or emotionally flat during periods of stability. Even though nothing is technically wrong, it's not boredom, it's withdrawal from chaos. Your system was used to the constant stimulation, like I keep saying, constant spikes, the constant urgency. Recovery removes the extremes, but it doesn't immediately replace them with discomfort. It replaces them with space, and space can feel unsettling when you don't know how to be in it yet. That's where subtle, very small self-sabotage, I believe, starts to creep in. Not through relapse, but through the distraction. You fill the moment with your phone. You cut conversations short. You stay busy even when you don't need to be. You minimize the experience so it doesn't feel like something you'll miss when it ends. This isn't because you don't deserve good moments. It's because good moments ask something of you that addiction never did. They actually ask you to stay. Addiction taught you to escape discomfort. And on the opposite end, recovery asks you to tolerate comfort. And that sounds backwards until you've lived it. Comfort doesn't give you instructions. It doesn't demand action. It doesn't create urgency. It just exists. And when you're not used to that, it can feel like standing still without armor. There's also a grief that sits underneath this. One people rarely talk about, the grief of realizing how many moments you rushed past or numbed because you didn't know how to be present without the escape. So when a good moment happens now, it carries weight. It matters. And caring that much can feel risky because caring means loss is possible. So instead of fully engaging, you stay guarded. Instead of absorbing the moment, you prepare for it to end. Instead of letting yourself feel connected, you stay functional. This is how recovery tests you in those quiet ways. Not by asking if you can stay sober in chaos, but by asking if you can stay present in the calm. Because staying sober during peace requires a different kind of strength. The strength to let something be good without needing to control it or protect yourself from it. And if that feels hard, it doesn't mean you're doing recovery wrong. It means you're still learning how to feel safe without intensity. That's not failure. That's progress happening beneath the surface. One of the most dangerous myths in recovery is that sabotage only shows up as relapse. Because for many people, the real damage happens long before substances ever come back into the picture. It happens in how you relate to peace. When you don't know how to sit in good moments, you don't usually destroy them all at once. You chip away at them quietly, through distance, distraction, and emotional withdrawal that feels harmless in the moment, but adds up over time. You rush through the moment instead of staying in it. You stay guarded instead of open. Not because you want to ruin the moment, but because your system doesn't trust it. Addiction trained you to believe that intensity is real and calm is temporary. So when calm shows up, part of you stays suspicious, waiting for the moment where something goes wrong or feel exposed. The suspicious part pulls you out of the present, I think, and you start thinking ahead. You start planning what's next. You start preparing for the end instead of experiencing the middle. And that's how good moments slip past you without ever fully landing. For people in recovery, this often shows up as emotional detachment. That doesn't feel dramatic enough to raise alarms. You're still sober, you're still functioning, but you're not fully with what's happening. You might notice yourself emotionally checking out of conversations that mean meaningful, or pulling back when connection deepens, or staying mentally busy during moments that could have been grounding. This isn't avoidance. It's avoidance disguised as control. Because if you don't let yourself fully feel something, you don't have to deal with the vulnerability that comes when it ends. That's the part addiction wired into you. The belief that endings are dangerous, that loss is inevitable, and that the safest move is to never be all the way in. So instead of letting the moment breathe, you manage it. You keep it small. You keep it light. You keep it from touching the deeper parts of you. And over time, this pattern creates a subtle emotional numbness that can feel confusing in recovery. Because on the outside, everything looks better, but on the inside, you feel disconnected from the very life you worked so hard to rebuild. This is where people start saying things like, I don't feel the way I thought I would, or I'm sober, but something still feels off. What often happening isn't dissatisfaction with recovery, it's incomplete presence. You learn how to survive chaos, but you're still learning how to live in peace. And living in peace requires something addiction never taught you how to do: letting moments end without chasing or controlling what comes next. In addiction, endings were catastrophic. In recovery, endings are just transitions. But your nervous system doesn't know that yet. So when a good moment starts to fade, your body reacts the same way it always did, with tension or the impulse to escape. Even though nothing is actually wrong, that's the moment where long-term recovery is built or weakened. Not in resisting substances, but in resisting the urge to disengage when things feel good. In active addiction, there was no such thing as a neutral ending. When something ended, it usually fell off a cliff. The high crashed. The night collapsed. The consequences showed up fast and hard. So your nervous system that learned that endings were dangerous, and it learned to avoid them by staying in motion or numbing what came next. Recovery asks you to unlearn that. It asks you to trust that moments can end without becoming disasters, that calm can fade without turning into crisis, and that you don't need to rush toward stimulation or escape just because something good is winding down. This is where long-term sobriety lives. Not in white-knuckling cravings, but in learning how to tolerate the quiet spaces between experiences without filling them with something destructive. When a good moment ends in recovery, that's often a hollow feeling that'll show up. Not because the moment was wrong, but because your body expects something intense to replace it. That expectation is old wiring. It's not the truth. Instead of panic, recovery invites presence. Instead of escape, it invites patience. Instead of control, it invites trust. Letting a moment end doesn't mean you failed to appreciate it enough. It means you stayed long enough to experience it fully, and you trusted yourself enough to remain grounded when it passed. That trust builds slowly. Each time you allow a good moment to end without numbing, or self sabotaging, you teach your nervous system something new, that safety doesn't require chaos, that calm doesn't need to be chased, and that endings don't automatically mean loss. Over time, that lesson softens the restlessness. It reduces the urge to escape. It creates space where peace can actually settle. Recovery isn't just about removing substances, it's about learning how to stay. Staying with discomfort, staying with the calm, and staying with yourself when nothing is demanding your attention and nothing needs fixing. And if you're listening to this and you recognize yourself in that tension, the unease and peace, the urge to move on when things feel good, that doesn't mean recovery isn't working. It means your system is still learning that it doesn't have to run anymore. That learning takes a long time. It takes repetition. And it takes compassion for the part of you that learned survival the hard way. Remember, you don't need to win today. You just can't quit today. I'm still fighting. And if you're listening to this, I hope you are too. Keep fighting. I'll talk to you next time.